All right, everyone. So I want to talk about today golfer's elbow. You don't have to be a golfer to get it. I see it more often than not in people that do a lot of gripping, whether it is from a CrossFit standpoint or just a lot of barbell work or overhead work from a pull-up standpoint or hangs or whatnot. That's where you can see a lot of this. And golfer's elbow is just another term for an injury to the common flexor tendon, which is where all of your flexors from your wrist, they come up through the forearm and they attach to the same spot at your medial epicondyle here. I do see this a lot in pitchers as well, but for just the overarching theme of today is I want to talk about the biggest mistakes I see in golfer's elbow rehab that a lot of people will go through. So first thing, they go right into some type of stretching or right into full concentric or even eccentric right out of the chute. The last thing you need to be doing is eccentric work, especially. Stretching, you don't need to waste your time with that. Where everyone needs to start with when you have golfer's elbow or some type of injury to the common flexor tendon, you have to start with isometrics. That is my strong opinion that I truly believe in, because one, tendons need load. And if you go with too much load right out of the chute, that tendon is not going to be happy with you. Isometrics serve as a great foundation more than anything. And I've talked about this before, but they need to be long duration isometrics. The beauty of these tendon injuries is you don't need them to be pain-free. You need to find the right isometric long duration that allows you to keep your pain below a 3 or 4 out of 10. You don't want it to go any higher than that, but it needs to be within that threshold because you need load for that tendon to heal. So from a rehab standpoint, if I have someone that comes in, whether they are a CrossFitter, a golfer, someone that just lifts a lot, or a baseball pitcher, and they have an injury to that common flexor tendon, I am going to be doing strictly isometrics from the form. I'm going to be doing strictly isometrics for probably a decent amount of time more than anything. Not that doing concentric stuff right out of the chute is a bad thing. Eccentric, yes, you don't want to do those right out of the chute, but when you do a lot of concentric work, you're not going to get the tendon adaptation that you need to. Isometrically, you are going to get that tendon adaptation, and you progress the either intensity, the duration of it, which I'm not going to get into today, but that is the goal of that. And that's why we talk about things like tendon stiffness, tendon stress shielding. And again, I'm not going to get into that either today. That's a little bit too far down the rabbit hole, but you have to start isometrically. And you might be there for a couple of weeks before I even say, hey, that tendon has a good amount of stiffness in it. Now let's get into eccentrics. But you do have to get to eccentrics at some point. Probably the last thing I'll say about treating these injuries is you have to treat above the elbow, and that is the shoulder and scap area. More often than not, yes, there are deficits at the form that have to be tackled, but if you do not tackle the shoulder, cuff, scapular deficits as well, you might be getting the form in a good spot, but the minute they get back to their activity, whether it is pull-ups, heavy overhead work, overhead throwing motions or whatnot, you're just setting it up for failure in the long term. So you have to address the whole arm. You need to start with loading that flexor tendon isometrically, increase the intensity of those isometrics, then get into some eccentric works, get them back in the gym moving, and you have to keep targeting the shoulder at the same time and progressing that side of rehab as well.